What is going on, everybody? So this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about how you can still have a new boat this day and age and do it on a budget. And what I mean by that, there's a lot of older hulls out there that are in fantastic shape, and to be perfectly honest with you, in my opinion, some of them, like the one that I'm in here, that I favor, they ride better than the new hulls. This boat that I'm in right here, it's a 2001 Key Largo 206. So it is a 20-foot long boat. I did some modifications to it just to make it my own. And I'm going to go over that. I'm going to go out here in the flats and kind of walk around it and show you what I did from the layout inside, what I moved and cut out, what I added. There's a whole bunch of things. But most importantly, what I did is I bought this boat and I repowered it. So this boat, I found it on, I believe it was Craigslist. I ended up purchasing it. I'm in Florida. I drove across the state to get it. I got it for $6,000 is what I purchased the boat for. Boat, motor, trailer. It had a T-top on it, which T-tops are really nice. But for this boat, that T-top took so much floor space up, it was more in the way than it was practical. So I sold it. And I think I ended up selling it for about $1,000. It had an old two-stroke on it. It was a Suzuki 140. It ran. I mean, the boat would get up and run. I had to do a little bit of work to it, but I sold that and I got $1,500 for that. So I got $2,500 back from my initial purchase. So I had about $3,500 into the boat. I went down to the local Suzuki dealership because the Suzukis are the best bang for the buck right now. And for a little over $20,000, I got a brand new Suzuki 200 horsepower motor installed. I put a jack plate on it, and I'll show you what I did to change some things. But that, in my opinion, that's the most important thing on a boat, is you want the motor to run well. And if the motor runs well, the other stuff you can deal with, adjust, and make it to your liking. These hulls, the Key Largos back in the early 2000s, they were made real heavy, and they really handle the water well. So that's what I did. Now, the other night I was just scrolling through, just trying to price out new boats, which it's aggravating in itself because every time you click on a new boat, it says call for price, which that should tell you something right there, that they're just astronomical in their price. But for Carolina skiffs, I were able to find some of them. A 20-foot Carolina skiff right now, rigged out with a 150 on it. It was anywhere between $50,000 and $60,000. And then you go to some of your higher price boats, a 20-foot boat, you could be as high as $80,000 for a brand new boat. So I think after everything was said and done with the materials and the work that I did with this, I had a lot of sweat hours, so that didn't count. But I got about $26,000 in this boat, and it's new. I mean, it's a new boat. It's reliable. It's so reliable that 2 days from now, my wife Leslie and I, we are going to be leaving from here in Hernando Beach in this boat, and we are going to run to our houseboat, which is in Islamorada, Florida. And I believe it's 330 miles. We're not going to run straight through. We're going to stop probably, I think, Naples and stay the night, break it up. I'm going to have a beanbag on the boat for Mama so she's comfortable, and we'll have some snacks, and we're just going to make a long day of it. Probably take us about 7 hours, 8 hours to get from here to Naples, and we're going to get a room there and stay the night, and then we'll get up the next morning and we'll shoot across Florida Bay and we'll get to Islamorada and park the boat right next to our houseboat there. So I'm going to have footage of that coming up. But all this stuff that I've done to this boat, the final tweaking to it, has pretty much been in preparation to get that down there. Even the bottom paint. I bottom painted this boat because it's going to be sitting in the water down there. I used a product called Vivid, Petit Vivid. It's a hard bottom paint, so it doesn't really flake off as much. They use it for like race boats, and that is good because it actually doesn't affect performance as much. And I've ran this boat a couple times and I did not see a difference in performance. So I'm gonna jump on plane here and I'm gonna get out here to the flats and I'm gonna do a walk around with the boat and show you what I did to it as far as the transom. I cut out and built up the transom on some areas, the bottom paint, the floor plan, all that stuff. So stand by and we'll go over it here in a minute. So we're running right now, I'm running about 33, 34 miles an hour. I'm getting 3.2 miles to the gallon, with 3.5 now, so anywhere's in the lower threes. 65 gallon tank, I got about 200 miles of range. And not happy, not disappointed with that at all. Great fuel mileage. Now we're gonna get on it a little bit and let's see what kind of top speed we can get out of this. Tuned out about as good as I can get it. Top speed 46 miles an hour. Not disappointed at all. Not that I'm going to run that, but it's good to know that you can, in case you're running out of, getting away from bad weather or something. Let me get, let's see, 30 miles an hour, 31 miles an hour, and actually 3.6 now. So if I'm 3.5 miles to a gallon on average running, that's fantastic with the 65 gallon fuel tank. I mean, that's a little over 200 miles of range, and I can't disappoint with that. Here she is, 2001 Key Largo 206. So this is a 20-foot boat. There's two versions of this boat. There's a bay version and I think kind of like an offshore version. They got an offshore 24-foot version, and I think they use the same hull, but they just made a 20-foot version of it. So this has a real aggressive V in the front, and it really cuts through the water well. I removed all the stickers off it, kind of wet sanded it and buffed it as best I could. And then obviously went with the Salty Bushwhacker logo. If you look at the water line, this is bottom painted. It's white bottom paint. So I kind of like that. It kind of blends in, especially on a smaller boat like this. Doesn't make it look so, might make it look smaller or just kind of look weird, but I don't know. I just like the white. So, and then we'll start back here with the transom, because this was the biggest project. And I'm going to post pictures throughout while I'm talking here to kind of give you an idea. So these boats had a real low cut transom. Just to give you an idea, this cut right here, it used to go down almost to the platform and across. So all this was added to the transom. The transom on this boat was solid. There was nothing wrong with it, but it has a splash guard in the back of these, and the reason they cut these boats so low in the back is because they can mount the motor like they did back then right to the boat, and you can still trim the motor up out of the water because the transom's out of the way. The bad part about that is if you're standing in the back of the boat or anchored or fishing or backing up on something, you can get a lot of water in the boat. So that is what you have to give up, I guess. when you have that. So I filled the transom in because I plan on running offshore with this boat a lot, and I removed the splash well that was inside. So inside here, right here where you stand, right behind that compartment, if you will, there was a wall there. So as the water would come over, that wall would stop it and it would self-bail out. So I eliminated the self-bailing setup, and I put 2 holes so it just goes down to the bilge. I put a real big 1,500 gallon per hour bilge, and it takes care of all of it. You can see in the water here, it does have trim tabs too, which helps running through it. The way I handled being able to trim my motor is I put a Bob's Machine Shop 14-inch setback jack plate on it. So it sits 14 inches back and it raises up 6 inches. So I can take this 200 horse Suzuki that I put on here and I can raise it up 6 inches, and since it's 14 inches back, when I trim it, it's close, but I'm able to get the bottom of the motor out of the water. So there's none of the motor just sitting in the water. And you can see the white where I bottom painted. All right, we're gonna go in the boat here and I'll show you what a lot of the stuff I did. First thing you can see as I'm going in is the leaning post. This had one of those cooler seats with the backrest that flipped back and forth. I guess they are practical, but they are about the most uncomfortable thing to sit in when you're driving a boat, and they take up a lot of space. I pretty much have the same thing here. I still have my cooler, but with this leaning post, there's storage under that seat, so I picked up some storage. I picked up 4 rod holders, and when I'm driving, I can lean against that and see over the console, versus if you want to try to sit down if you're making long trips, you can't even see over the center console. So that's not practical. So sorry about the wind, guys. We got a storm coming at us here, I think, and I might have to outrun it. Okay, so right here at the end here, right where this corner, that's where that went across, that splash guard. So that's like probably 14, 15 inches of space by removing that I picked up, so I can stand all the way at the back of the boat. Now, before I did that, I had removed the splash guards, and when I had 3 people back here, I would get water coming over that, because the transom saver that you see there, that little aluminum thing, the original transom was about 1 inch above that. So, and it came to like here, like right here. So all this got filled in. So no matter what, I've done everything. I've put people in the back of this boat and came off plane real quick, had 5 people standing back here. This thing gets no water over it now, so it served its purpose. And plus I beefed up the transom. When I filled this in, I filled it in with wood, plywood, and I had a couple people get on me about that. But these boats were made out of wood. It was called greenboard. The wood that I added to this transom is not underwater in any way. Plus, on the back of the transom, where that jack plate meets the transom, I added an additional 1/2 inch of glass to the old transom and the new part that I put in to tie it all in together to try to make the 2 units one and just give it a lot of strength. So I really beefed up this transom, which helps because I added a bigger motor and I set it back, so I didn't want to have to worry about it down the road. Here's the new binnacle. You know, and I put a new hydraulic steering C-Star setup on here. I'm a Garmin fan. Some people are Simrad fans. I think some of them are better than Garmin. I've just used Garmin my whole life. I'm comfortable with it and I like them. So I'm pretty happy with them. The smart gauge for the Suzuki kind of gives you code errors if you have any problems. Get a full readout, gives me what my miles per gallon are and all that. I put my battery switch right there. Most battery switches are in the inside of the wall. You got to open the thing to get to them. So what I did is I put it backwards and drill the hole so it sticks through, so I can just turn it on and off without the whole casing sticking out, and I can still utilize my rod holders and stuff. I put a little switch panel there, very basic. I got an aerator, I got my bilge manual. I got my navigational lights. And the last one is I actually have a light on the very front of the bow that is just under that point, so I can flip on lights when running at night and see where I'm going, and I have zero glare when I do that. I replaced all the hatches. I made this hatch bigger right here. I got some stuff in here now, but when we're down in the Keys and we're running offshore fishing, I'll fill this thing 3/4 of the way with ice and put a couple and not let it drain and let it get like an ice slurry, and it lasts for the day. I mean, you know, it's not efficient by any means, but it's a good fish cooler and it lasts through the day. And then when I'm done with it, on the inside here, you can see my plugs that I have here. So I got some plugs that I can just let the water drain out. Next hatch up, I have a battery that I put in here. And the reason I put a battery here is because I added this water tank, and it's a freshwater setup. I got my little switch right there, and I can come up here and rinse everything down. And when you're out on the water all day and somebody gets hot or you get some blood on the boat or need to rinse down, that fresh water is a lifesaver. It just feels so good. And then, like every other boat, in front of it, I got an anchor well, a couple 100 feet of rope. Big nice platform up here. What I did on this boat, because it is a 20-foot boat, so room is precious. Having as much floor space as you can is precious. So what I did is I just got a little mini tackle center. Now I got like 5 or 6 different trays, but if I'm running offshore, I grab my trays that have my trolling lures and stuff like that. If I'm trout fishing, I'll grab my jig heads. I'll get the 2 trays that fit what I'm trying to do for that day for fishing, and I just swap them in and out. Plus I got a little storage underneath for pliers and stuff, and people could put their wallets or cell phones or stuff like that too. Throw all my leader on my antenna right there, my VHF. Like I said, I removed the T-top, and I have the bimini. Now I put the bimini a little bit forward than you usually see boats, because that gives us all this room back here when we're offshore in the Keys, or we're yellowtailing or fishing for tuna or mahi. You can stand back here and not have to worry about this thing getting in your way. Plus, with it sitting a little bit more forward, the people in the front that aren't doing anything and want to get out of the sun, they got shade in the front. So that's about it as far as the layout of the boat goes. Fuel water separator and hoses that go in this compartment. This one over here, I leave it the same. It's a compartment, and we just utilize that for trash. We throw our trash in there, or soda cans, beer cans, sandwich bags, all that stuff. We just throw that stuff in there and empty that at the end of the day. And I think I've pretty much covered everything that I did to this boat. So guys, remember, you can have a new boat on a budget. I mean, it might not be the cleanest or the shiniest, but this boat does everything that somebody spent $80,000 on a boat does. And in my opinion, it runs better a lot. This Suzuki that I put on here runs like a top. I get fantastic fuel mileage. Guys, and I'm in a 22-year-old boat. 22 years. And it still runs like new, acts like new. Its floors are solid. Everything's solid. So you can do it. You can do it. There's a way. You don't have to spend that kind of money. Now, people ask, like, well, I can't afford a $20,000 motor. Yes, you can. You can finance them. Suzuki has plans where you can finance them. But what I did is I went and spoke to my bank and saying, I'm financing this motor, and I gave them this boat. So I financed part of this motor with this boat and just called it a boat loan. And my bank was willing to do that with me. They worked with me, so I got a boat loan. But it didn't come as a package right away. I had to let them know, no, I'm buying the motor to put on this boat. So it took a couple more steps and a couple more phone calls, but that's how we were able to do it. So you can do it, guys. So got any questions, ask me in the comments. And stay tuned, because Leslie and I think it's looking like Monday. There's a low pressure in the Gulf right now that's going to ruin this weekend. So Monday, her and I are hitting the water bright and early, 5 in the morning. Stay tuned for the footage of that. We're going to have our coffee going, and it's going to be dark, and we're going to be heading south, and I'll be filming the sunrise for you, and we're going to enjoy that ride all the way down there, and then we're going to enjoy it across Florida Bay, getting to Isla Morada, and we're going to have you along for the trip. So stay tuned for that trip, and stay tuned for some cool stuff while we're down there in the hospital in the Keys. Thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe. If you want to see any other videos or have any other questions for me, please ask me in the comments. And remember, salty bushwhacker is a way of living. Thank you.